Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk.
Here we are on the Morning Drive. My name's Tim Elliott. You're very welcome. It's Mira Business FM. And now the UAE rapidly becoming a hub for new media, for digital content, for creative industries. But with rapid change comes a pressing question. Are students being prepared for the jobs of tomorrow? So how is education evolving to meet the needs of this rapidly evolving media landscape that we find ourselves in, the land of first, second, third, and maybe even fourth screens? AI-driven content creation, film, music, digital marketing, broadcast. Lots of questions to discuss with Jan Horn, who is the Managing Director of SAE Dubai, which is a university for creative media education. Jan, it's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Appreciate you coming in. Loads to talk about, as I said. There's a number of topics there. We could be here for a while, so strap in. University partnerships with industry, curricula, the skills that students need to thrive in this booming creative sector that we find ourselves in. That's where I'd like to begin with you. The evolution of what legacy media call new media. It's evolving rapidly. Hard question to start. What are the top skills students need today to succeed in the, and I'm using air quotes here, the media sector?
Yeah, look, I think the first thing that I want to say is this question of whether students are being prepared for the workplace of the future is not a new question.
It's not at all.
This is a question that have been out there as long as there's been technological development, because you know, the workplace, the environment is always changing. Technology is always, and whether it is changing from the printing press back in the 1600s to a new way of producing, you know, you're always looking for people with the skills that could match the level of technology development. And I think what we have seen over the last number of years is how the pace of technological development has really increased, and the race of trying to make sure that students are adequately prepared once they get into the workplace. So it's not a new thing, but the workplace, not only of today and the workplace of the future, is a workplace that demands skills. Yeah. You need to be able to do things. You need to be able to do them from day one. One of the big challenges that universities have always faced is that students graduate with a lovely piece of paper called a degree, and they get into the workplace and they have no idea what to do. Yeah, they need to be reskilled. Yeah. So they go into an internship program where for the next 6 months they actually get taught or trained, retrained, how to do the job that they've actually now been successful at getting. And I think this is where things have changed, and this is where SAE University College have been really addressing that gap, not only now, but since its inception. We've always been a university that focuses on providing students with a highly a recognized, internationally accredited bachelor's degree. Mm-hmm. But the thing that really gets you employed in industry is what you can do, your skills. And that's very important, you know, to be able to build up a portfolio that shows what your actual digital technological skills are that can be applied in the workplace straight away. So that's of course, one of the questions that you asked, and one of the things that you mentioned is partnerships with industry and how that works. And it is absolutely central to, I believe, how you prepare students for that environment.
I want to ask you about how you do that, and we'll come to that. But it seems as though now it's not enough for an aspiring journalist to be a great writer or a dogged researcher. It's as though these days you really need to be a jack of all trades. You need, if you're in journalism or what we're doing now, you need to have recording expertise, audio expertise, video expertise, even lighting expertise. You need to have not just a skill, you need to have skills on top of the usual, in this example, the usual journalistic requirements.
Yeah, absolutely. To be multi-skilled is absolutely one of the requirements of the industry right now. Is that people look at being able to do lots of different things, especially at the entry level of your career, but over time to evolve into a specialist.
Yeah.
So absolutely to be able to be multi-skilled. But the question about what are the top skills, if you look at, there's a report that comes out every year that is done by the World Economic Forum that they project the skills that is required in the workplace of the future. And the latest report projects, what the workplace of the future in the next 5 years is going to look like. And it's interesting to note that things like adaptability, resilience, teamwork, leadership, those kind of things are still listed as the top skills required in the workplace of the future. So being able to adapt, being able to deal with different challenges, being able to work with different kinds of people, being able to be a team player, over and above the obvious technical and digital skills that is required. The technical and digital skills and the technological skills actually comes in at about 5 or 6 or 7 on the list. The top skills are things like adaptability, resilience, teamwork, being able to solve problems, being able to use creative problem solving in different environments. And those are really the skills that students need to be developed to make them employable in the workplace.
And I guess you expect or you hope for students to come to university with a grounding or at least an idea of those skills, hopefully passed down by, family, parents, because those things are really hard to teach. How do you get that across to people? How do you get the idea of being a team player or, enhancing resilience across to a 19, 20-year-old student?
It's focusing on the actual doing of it. It's, SAE is although we're a university and students come to us and they study a 4-year bachelor's degree, everything is hands-on, practical, project-based curriculum. So our students never write a theory exam, for example. From the day they walk in, they get taught the theory, but the way that they get assessed is how they apply the theory in different environments.
Okay.
They get put into multidisciplinary teams that work on real industry briefs that are given to us and developed by our industry partners. So when students graduate and while they're studying, they're actually doing what would be required of them once they're in the industry. And they're doing it practically. They're doing it in a hands-on, interactive way. It's not just you have a textbook, you go into a lecture, you memorize a whole bunch of stuff, and then you come back and you write a theory exam, and you're actually only really testing how well you've memorized facts.
You're testing recall.
Yeah, exactly. So at SAE, it's completely different. It's a practical, hands-on environment. Our studios, in fact, our audio studios on the campus looks very much like your studio right here.
I've seen your audio studios. You have some impressive equipment.
Exactly. And
I didn't know what any of the buttons did.
Well, I still don't, but our students certainly do. So yes, our environment on campus is a mirror of what things would be if you get into industry. So when you get into a studio like this, you know exactly which buttons to press because you've done it before. So you don't have to be retrained in the workflow of what a media company needs you to be able to do.
Okay, so you have some experience, then you go and get the real world experience. Now, partnerships between universities and industry are obviously very important. How do you collaborate with the media industry here in Dubai, in the UAE?
Well, I think that one of the areas where it is probably the most beneficial for us as a university and for our students is through our Industry Advisory Council. So we have an advisory council that consists out of some of the most prominent individuals and leaders in the media industry here in Dubai, across various sectors. And that advisory council, the purpose of it is really to advise us. What's happening in the industry? How can we incorporate what's happening and the trends and the directions that's happening in industry into our curriculum? And how can we adapt our curriculum to mirror what's happening in industry? And then we have collaborations with so many different partners. For example, I can give an example. There's an agency in Dubai. They actually have branches not only here, but also in Bahrain and in Saudi, and they're probably the largest creative agency locally here. And with them, for example, we've launched a graduate placement program where students from SAE go through a process of working on real briefs with them as through an internship, and eventually it leads to a path for employment. So those partnerships are really, really important. And bringing those people into the classroom, creating the opportunity for our students to go and visit the industry, for example. So it's a very, very hands-on kind of experience for students to be able to go see how things actually are out there in industry, rather than just sitting in a theory classroom and being told about it.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? There is no substitute for your real-world experience. From your point of view, and I guess you talk to students about this all the time, but let me just ask the question: how do internships, industry projects, hands-on experience prepare students for that moment when, okay, now it's the real world?
Yeah. Well, it's the bridge, right? It's the bridge between the two. Being a student and going through a process of development, and then being exposed to the real world. So I get asked a lot the question about how many of our students do internships, for example, an internship placements. The answer is very simple. All of them. Every single student at SAE University College, before they graduate, need to do an internship before they're allowed to graduate. So it's part of their academic requirement to complete an internship. And then obviously we facilitate that through our industry partners. But through that, by the time they then get, and a high percentage of those students that go through those internships, of course, then those internships might lead to permanent employment or some kind of an offer or something like that. But through that process, the students know exactly what it's like to work in industry even before they graduate, because they get that exposure as part of the student experience already.
We're in the technological age, as we've talked about. One of the things at the moment is keeping up, and you kind of alluded to that. It's this pace, isn't it, that we're all going through. So we all have to do it. But how is technology, AI, virtual reality, social media? I mean, this social media is not even a new part of creative media now, is it, I guess? But how has that changed the way that creative media students learn?
Well, there's two things. First of all, it's how do we use that to enhance their learning experience as a student? Okay, so, and what it allows universities to do, not just SAE, but universities in general and education in general, is it makes learning much more personalized, because AI can really help you to adapt learning to a very personal learning style for specific students. So that's very helpful. And you mentioned earlier your wife is a teacher. One of the things that teachers find very taxing is all of the data and analysis they need to do, and
you're talking her language now. Oh yeah.
AI can take most of that away. All of that analysis and making decisions about the learning direction and learning path for students, and the interventions that are very specific to students, AI is very, very helpful with. Now, that's on the learning side. Then it's about how do students use these technologies, like AI, for example. And one of the questions that we get very often is like, will AI replace the creative the creative student? And the answer is a resounding no. In fact, many of our students look at AI if they see that there are students or people in industry that use AI to actually produce the creative output as a result, they don't like that very much. What it should be is AI becomes part of the creative thinking and ideation, the prototyping process, and that allows you to get to a result or to an outcome quicker and faster. But it does not replace the creative thinking process and the creative itself. It is a tool, and that's very exciting because it means, look, creative people and creatives that graduate from SAE do one of two things in the same way as you guys do. You tell stories, right? And you solve problems. Those are the two things that creatives do. They tell stories and they solve problems.
Yeah, it's a nice way to
And
put
the
it.
tools that you use, AI is a tool that helps you to be able to tell stories better and to get to the solution of a problem quicker. So it's positive, it's great. I think the way that our students are taught to be able to integrate this in their thinking process and in their creative process is absolutely the key. If you use any kind of software, design software, like let's say Adobe Photoshop, if you go 5 years ago, Adobe Photoshop, the software did not have an AI plugin in the same way as Word now has got Copilot.
Yeah.
And Google has got Gemini.
Yeah.
It's built in. It's about how you then use that plugin. So it's very exciting.
It's about harnessing the skill, isn't
Yeah.
it, I guess? I mean, one of the things about AI is I always think if I'm talking to somebody, I don't know everything in particular about a topic, I use AI to give me an idea so that I don't miss something that maybe I should be asking. That I see as very valuable. When it comes to writing questions, it's almost impossible to anticipate how an interview is going to go. You can maybe get a flow going, but AI can't do that.
Exactly.
And, it can't replace that. Yet, of course. Let's see. Couple more questions, just very quickly. We've got 3 or 4 minutes. The UAE's investing heavily in creative industries. I mean, you know that as well as anybody. But how does education support those kind of broader economic goals?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, as a role player within the economic and education goals within the UAE, it's absolutely crucial, I think, that all education institutions should support that path towards what the UAE wants to achieve. The reality is that some of the traditional drivers of the economy are not sustainable, and the visionary leadership of the UAE have realized that there are alternatives, and the creative economy is one of them. So as a university, it's our duty to make sure that we graduate students that have the skills, the know-how, the understanding to be able to support that as that industry grows. So that's very important to us. I'll give you an example. Just if you take the gaming industry, for example, in about 2023, His Highness Sheikh Hamdan announced what was at that stage called the Dubai Project for Gaming.
Okay.
Since then, until now, more than 350 gaming studios and gaming companies have set up shop in Dubai. And they need skills.
For sure they do.
The same has happened with the film industry, for example. Locally here in Abu Dhabi, the film industry is booming. The local governments and authorities have created huge incentives for international film production companies to come here to make big blockbuster movies. Where they lack are the skilled crew to be able to do that. So although the incentives are here to be able to come here and make those movies, when they come here, most of the time they have to bring the crew with them, which means you've got to pay flights for those people, get them visas, accommodation, living allowances, all of these things, and that pushes your costs up again.
Yeah.
So it's our duty to make sure that those skills are available here locally, and it will help to develop and support these development goals of the UAE.
Final question, and just briefly, for young people looking to enter new media careers, or for anybody that knows somebody that's looking to do that, son, daughter, friend, acquaintance, whatever, what advice would you give somebody to stand out?
100% show your passion.
Really?
What do I mean by that? You need a portfolio. If you want to go into film, you need to show that you are making films basically on a daily basis. Every single person these days have got a cell phone, a mobile phone. I always use the example, you don't become a chef just because you have bought an oven. You become a chef because you're really passionate about experimenting with making various kind of dishes. And it's the same way in the creative industries. My number one advice is build a portfolio that shows what you're passionate about. And then, of course, learn. Stay on top of your skills, develop, always be curious, make sure that you always understand the directions that the industry is going, but then bring that back and show that you are passionate about that through your portfolio.
Jan Horn is the GM, he's the MD, he's the big head honcho, I suppose, at SAE University College here in Dubai. Jan, fascinating to talk to you. Really appreciate you coming
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. This is Mira Business FM. It's the Morning Drive, and the news is next.